Hi, welcome to episode 7 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura. You can find me as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where the show notes for this episode will be. And I have a shop at Etsy for my hand-spun. It is called The Stash Buckler Adventures in Yarn. Welcome to my new viewers, and welcome back to those of you who have been with me for a while. I'm excited to do another episode today. Last week I mentioned that I was getting close to 100 subscribers on YouTube and that I was going to do a giveaway as soon as I passed 100 subscribers. And I did that this week. I didn't expect to happen so soon, but it did, and I'm super excited. Last I checked, I had maybe 103, 104 subscribers. So welcome to everyone who's new this week. I did mention last week that as soon as I passed 100 subscribers, I was going to do a giveaway. I will have details about that at the end of this episode, and I have a special prize for one lucky person. So, welcome to the podcast. I hope you've had a good week. It is Sunday afternoon, September 21st, and I am hanging out at home enjoying crafting and doing a few chores, my usual Sunday routine. So I wanted to start off with what it is that I'm sipping. This week's selection is another sample from David's Teas. It is Lime Gelato. And again, this was a sample that I got when I ordered other things. And I decided to try it out today. I love that they include a few samples in every order so that I can try some things that I wouldn't necessarily have selected. This one has apple, scented green tea, pineapple, lemongrass, and a creamy lime flavoring. I suspect this one has yogurt in it, like the strawberry rhubarb parfait that I had, was that last week, I think? But I really liked it, and this one actually tastes a little bit like key lime pie. I brewed it hot and then poured it in my Tervis mug over ice. And I am enjoying that now, and I actually really like this. I think I might order some the next time I order from them. I just have to keep myself from going crazy at David's Tea because I have so many teas right now, and I'm trying to try new things for the blog because I write tea reviews over at the Corner of Knit and Tea, and I just order so many teas these days that my boxes at work are overflowing, and I have trouble getting through all of them, so I have to be a little bit careful about that. But I did just get a big new box of tea from Tivana, so I'm sure you will hear about a few of those in the coming weeks. So that's what I'm sipping today, which means it's time for what I'm wearing. Now, I will preface this by saying I did not make this shawl. This was a lovely shawl made for me by a wonderful friend of mine. The spinning that I've been doing for the last couple weeks has been in exchange for the shawl. We just decided that there were a few different things we wanted to make and that each of us wanted, and then we swapped for, she is a spinner, but she wanted some hand spun, and this is a crochet shawl pattern that I love. But I haven't had time to get started on it, so she made me one. So this is the Sunday Shawl by the Little Bee, whose name is Alla Bland, and it is kind of a, not super plain, but a little bit plain top part, where you start at the center and work your way out, and using a fairly solid skein, semi-solid. And then at the edges, you get to add in all kinds of different stitch patterns and all kinds of colors. And I just love the colors she picked. I actually had very little input in this yarn. I sent her some yarn to be used in it, and I don't think she ended up using it, so most of it was in her stash. This shawl she did for me in Bugga, which was a merino cashmere nylon yarn in sport weight that was previously produced by the Sanguine Griffin. Now, the Sanguine Griffin has been out of business for a couple years. It actually split into two dyers, Cephalopod Yarns and the Verdant Griffin, and unfortunately Cephalopod Yarns has since closed. But I also would say they have in the most recent years switched the base yarn, and so the old base yarn is a little bit plumper, and I joke that it's my boyfriend. It is pretty much my favorite yarn ever. And so she made this for me. The merino cashmere nylon makes it super warm and super soft, and I am so looking forward to using this as a pop of color this coming winter, but I couldn't resist putting it on today and showing you. It is a great pattern if you want to learn to crochet, or if you already know how to crochet. It's got a bunch of different stitch details, which is super exciting. This is part of the reason that I really want to knit this. And it is great if you have one special skein of yarn for the majority of the body, and then a bunch of different colors that you'd like to use sort of on the outer edges, and you can kind of play with it as you go on. And the fun thing for me is that I actually know what a lot of the colorways of these bits that she used are, so I can point it out, and I've worked with it in various projects. And so it's a special thing to have somebody make something for you, and then something that I love so much and I'm going to get so much use out of just makes it that much more special. So that is what I'm sipping and what I'm wearing. I guess it's time to go into the other parts of the podcast. First, I will show you what I'm knitting. I do have one new project to show you this week, but otherwise it's pretty much the ones that I've already showed you. I am working on my second spooky sock. Last week I showed you the first one finished and said I was going to start the second one, and I actually ended up with quite a bit of time this week. I ended up getting through the toe and the foot and turning the heel at work this week, and then my husband and I went to see a movie yesterday, and I knit the whole leg in the theater in the dark, which was fabulous. I would say I'm probably 2/3 of the way done. I have one more color repeat and then the ribbing. And so I will surely get these done for the end of the month. Like I said, I am participating in the Stash Addiction Sock Club, which is knit a pair of socks every month, use skeins from Stash. So I bought this last year. Again, the yarn is Knit Picks Felici. I believe it is it is discontinued now. The colorway is Spooky, which is why I'm calling them my Spooky socks. And again, for the details will be up on the blog. I used David Schultz's Toe Up Sock Cookbook for the shaping of the toe. I knit the foot on my normal standard 56 stitches on US 1 needles, which is a 2.25. I did a fish lips kiss heel, which I showed you last week, and is also in the notes, and now I am just knitting a plain leg, adding a little bit of calf shaping because these are going to be close to knee socks to end up at 68 stitches from where I started at 56. So that's these. I hope that they will be done next week and I can show you. I guess it would be awkward to show you if I were wearing them, but I hope I will have the finished pair so that I can show you and get ready to move on to October socks. I haven't completely decided what I'm going to do yet. The ladies over, Kim and Sam over at Come Knit With Me, are doing a Desert Vista Dye Works knit along for socks in October, and I did actually order a skein of sock yarn a couple weeks ago. It had to be dyed, and I'm waiting to see if it makes it in time because I would really, really like to participate in that and make stripy socks for my October socks, but we'll have to see if it gets here in time. If it gets here past the first couple days of October, I probably won't have enough time to finish them because I have so many other things, so I'll have to pick something else. I will probably pick a stripy because that's kind of the mood that I've been in, and I have plenty in the stash to choose from, but I love participating in knit-alongs, so if I can get my Desert Vista Dye Works in time, then I will definitely do that. So that is the first project on my needles. The second project on my needles I also showed you last week, and that is the Sugar Plums Blanket by Danielle Chalson, and I'm knitting it in Mad Tosh Sport in the Night Blooms colorway, and you probably won't see a lot of difference this week. I have actually, last week I had 5 repeats, this week I have 7, so the length has grown some. This is a beautiful cable blanket where you cable every 8th row, and I won't tell you too much more because it is a paid-for pattern. Again, I'm really enjoying the pattern. I am really enjoying the yarn. It is just knitting up beautifully. I'm making this for a friend of my mother's. I suspect that it will be, well, I'm knitting the carriage size, which is the smallest size on the blanket, and I suspect it will be about 28 or 30 inches wide, and then about the same in length. The pattern calls for 12 pattern repeats. I suspect I'm going to get closer to about 11 and a half, and I did weigh this yarn this week, and I believe I will actually get that amount, so that makes me happy because it will be fairly close to symmetrical. I have this thing about it needs to be a square, so I'm hoping I will get there. I'm really hoping that I will finish this month. This means that I need to buckle down and do, you know, I've got 4.5 more repeats plus the edging. It is totally possible. I just need to sit down and do it. And I will have some time where I'll be sitting next weekend, so my suspicion is that I will finish this by the 30th. I hope, and I will be able to show it to you when it's done, and then it will go off to California for the new baby. So that is that one. I think I mentioned last week that I was going to be doing a test knit for a friend of mine, and I started that this week. It is the Endless Mountain Hat by Chrissy Prang. Again, it's still in testing right now. It is a somewhat slouchy beanie with lots of lace. It is written for two yarn weights. You can knit it in Aran weight or in sport weight, and I am knitting it in the sport weight. Again, this is by Chrissy Prang, Left Side Knits on Ravelry, and the test knit is going through the 30th, so I would expect that this will be available the first few days in October, and I can post on Twitter when it is ready. You can keep your eye out for it if you're interested in it. As I said, I'm testing the sport weight, and I chose to use, I had a skein of Cascade Epiphany, which Ravelry tells me is discontinued. I know, I feel really bad that I keep knitting in discontinued yarns so that you can't copy me if you wanted to, but this is a skein that I picked up on a yarn crawl probably 3-4 years ago, and I was super excited to be using something from my stash and getting it out of my stash, so I chose it anyway. It is an alpaca silk cashmere in a beautiful bright cherry red. It is a sport weight. I am not sure it is the best choice for the pattern, and I will come back to that in just a minute, but that's what I'm using. It is super soft, super fluffy, super dreamy, but I will explain what I mean in just a second about that. So the pattern is to be knit as a slouchy beanie. You've got your ribbing down at the bottom, and then you've got this beautiful lace patterning. The chart, I have one more repeat on the chart to go. I've already knit 2 repeats, and then I have the crown decreases and shaping. So my guess is I will get this done this week as well. I will say that this is a pattern that requires concentration. Even though I can see the patterns in the yarn, there are so many yarn overs, and there's something different going on every row that, well, every other row, that I definitely need to pay attention to it. So this is not something that can be done while hanging out with friends and watching TV and all kinds of other things, because you really do kind of have to keep an eye on it. But I love it in this colorway, and I can't wait to finish it and see what it looks like. So I will go back for just a moment to what I was saying about this not necessarily being the right yarn for this project. Generally, I find with wool is very elastic, and it has good memory. When you finish an object in wool, you do what's called blocking it. You get it wet and you shape it the way you want it to be, and it stays in that shape, pretty much. If you wear it and it happens to stretch out, although quite often it will just kind of spring back to its form, if you stretch it out, all you need to do is wash it and block it again, and then you can go ahead and wear it, and it won't do a lot of stretching that can't be fixed. Alpaca, which is the bulk of what this yarn is, I think it's 60% alpaca, 20% cashmere, 20% silk. Alpaca and silk have a lot less memory. They are beautiful, they add shine, they add comfort, they make a beautiful fabric that's pretty drapey and nice to wear, but they have less memory. So my concern is just that if the ribbing at the brim gets stretched out, that it may end up too big, and that I may not be able to wear this as a hat. And I kind of, you know, hindsight is 20/20. I started knitting the pattern, I was playing with it, I was really enjoying the fabric that I was getting, and then I looked at it and thought, you know, if I block this, this may be too big. I suspect that I won't end up blocking this. And I should say that this is entirely me. I chose to use this skein of yarn. This is not at all what the pattern calls for. The pattern was actually knit for Plucky Yarn, Plucky Aran, and is it Traveler or Primo Sport is what most people are knitting it in. So I picked my own yarn, and I'm not sure that I picked quite the right one, but that is no fault of the pattern. So I will be finishing this week, and I will come back with a few more notes for you next week. And as I said, the pattern should be available the beginning of October. So if it's something you think you'd like to try knitting, you'll be able to get it. So that is what I have for knitting, which means it's time to move on to spinning. I was actually super productive this week and finished quite a bit. The first thing that I finished, which was the last spin in exchange for this shawl, was the Merino Cashmere and Merino Cashmere Nylon skeins. I showed them to you in bobbins last week, and I finished plying them up last Sunday night after I talked to you. And in thumb total, I got about 480 yards, so it's right around a heavy sport weight. And as you can see, the colors are not as vibrant and intense as they are in the braid, but I also don't really feel like they pasteled that much. You can still see chunks of navy and green and yellow and red, and I don't feel like they all went out to pink and gray and other colors. I do feel like this is a softly colored yarn and a little bit more muted, but I really, really like it. I'm super pleased with it, and I'm hoping that my friend will be as well. These will be off to her this week, along with the skein of Southern Cross Fiber Promenade that I showed you a couple weeks ago. I will say that so there were two braids here. They were by Dripping Fiber Studios, Kim, and one was a Merino Cashmere braid and one was a Merino Cashmere Nylon braid. And the Merino Cashmere braid I had very little trouble with. And the Merino Cashmere Nylon braid I actually didn't really enjoy spinning. And that has nothing to do with the prep or anything that the fiber dyer did. I found the fiber very slick and very hard to control, and when I was spinning, if a single of mine broke, I had a really hard time reattaching the fiber and continuing on. And actually, I believe that has happened to me in a couple other Merino Cashmere Nylon blends, so it's something about that fiber that I find more challenging or tricky to spin. So I would say that particular piece of this was not entirely enjoyable, although I am thrilled with the end result, and what I got is a super nice, soft, bouncy yarn, so I certainly cannot complain about that. So hopefully my friend will love these, and they will be going off to her this week, and I do not know what she has planned, but I'm hoping she'll show me once she starts. The next item is that I told you once I finished those, I was going to go back to that 2F by, that gorgeous 2F by hand braid that I showed you a few weeks ago. It is a BFL silk by 2F by hand. The ladies are Jaylon and Mighty, and I think it was Jaylon who dyed this braid. It was a beautiful braid of pinks and reds and little bits of orange and blue and purple, and I spun it up and I am super pleased with it. As you can see, it was lots of pinks and purples, and then there's blues, and there's a little bit of oranges, and a little bit of brown, and some purple tones, and it just came out beautifully. It is approximately a sport weight. I have to, it wasn't dry until this morning, so I haven't completely measured it, but it will be going up in my shop later today or tomorrow. And I'm just super pleased with how it came out. It just seems like it would be a fun, good time. It is a sport weight. My guess is somewhere between 250 and 280 yards, but I just need to actually do the weighing and measuring, which I always do again after it has washed and dried and plumped back up to make sure that I'm very accurate in my labeling in my shop. So that is that one. Which brings me to what I'm up to this week. Over the summer, during Tour de Fleece, which was before I had started podcasting, I spun a ton of Southern Cross Fiber and Hello Yarn club offerings and bags of fiber that I had gotten in updates. And one of the ones that I spun was the club from May 2014, and it was the base was a South African superfine merino, which I have to say is probably the softest thing I have ever spun. I absolutely loved the base, and I'm super excited. I'm hoping David gets more of it so that I can do a custom order on it. But one of the colors that I spun up was called Homestead. And I spun it up, renamed it, and put it in my shop, and it's sold. And the person it sold to posted a photo this week saying she was getting ready to wind it up and knit something from it. And I immediately had a bunch of requests in my shop for more of that yarn. Now, most of my skeins are sort of one of a kind. That's because when I buy them from the fiber dyers, most of the time they're in a somewhat limited run. If they're a club colorway, there are only a certain amount available. And so most of the skeins that I do are more or less one of a kind because I can't necessarily get my hands on more of the same fiber and spin it exactly the same way. But I was really gratified to have people requesting custom orders, and I was hoping that I could find a way to fulfill them. So I went onto Ravelry and I posted an in search of, and several people came back to me, and I was able to get enough fiber that I can spin up a couple more skeins of this colorway so that then it can go in the shop and I can fill those custom orders. So I'm super pleased about that. It also means that you'll be seeing pretty much the same spinning for the next couple weeks as I do a few skeins of the same fiber. But I brought one of them in here to show you today. Again, this was the May 2014 club. This is in the Homestead colorway. It is a gray, like a steely, smoky gray, and then a plummy burgundy, brown, and then it shows as white on here, but it's really more of a cream. And the colors just come together amazingly in this braid. And again, it is some of the super softest fiber that I have ever spun. And so to have to spin something a few more times, this is certainly a great thing to do that for. So I will be working on this. I actually already have a braid of it on the wheel. I've spun maybe just under 2 ounces, so I'm hoping to for sure finish one by midweek this week, and I'll probably be into the second one by the time we podcast next, but I will be able to show you some of the finished yarn. The other thing you can do is, if you're curious what it looks like, you can look in my sold orders. I entitled the yarn Scallywag, so that is what it spins up like. It's also back on my Instagram feed as well. So if you're interested, and I did get an extra bump or 2, so I probably will be able to do a couple more for the shop if anyone else is interested in a custom order. And I try not to promo my shop too much on here. It is something that I like doing. I certainly don't want anyone to feel an obligation to buy, and it's interesting because I still, since it is not a real business for me, it's something I do as a hobby, I still enjoy having time to do all the things that I want to do, so I try and just post as I spin things, and so it's a question of I like it when people enjoy my stuff, but I don't know for sure that I want it to become super huge, because I don't know if that will take too much time and or some of the enjoyment out of it if I'm always spinning for everyone else and I don't get to spin sometimes for myself. So it's sort of an interesting question for those of us who are hobbyists but also like to sell some of our wares. Sort of where is the line that gets drawn there? And I don't know if any of you are struggling with that. Certainly you're welcome to leave me a comment or discuss it if you want to. So that is that. Which brings me to the end of this episode, and like I said, I was going to do a giveaway. So the rules for the giveaway are simple. I would like you to leave a comment on YouTube in this video stream. I will not be responding to comments as quickly because I don't want to throw off the numbers. Basically, I want as many people to comment as are interested in entering for the prize, and then I will do a random number generator draw for the winner and send it out to you. So the prize. This is a scarf that I wove on my Ashford Knitter's Loom. It is a skein of the yarn that I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, Sanguine Griffin Bugga. It was in the colorway Ocelot Jewel Beetle, which is, as you can see, yellows and greens and teals. And the skein striped a little bit, which is why you can see that it almost formed a plaid or checked pattern. And the scarf is about 57 inches long, so just under 5 feet. It's about, I believe, 6.5, 7 inches wide, and it's got fringe of about 4 or 5 inches at each end. It is super soft because it is merino cashmere nylon and super warm, and it is just a lovely scarf. I haven't been doing as much weaving lately, but this was one of the ones that I did last year that I absolutely loved. And this is the prize drawing. So if you are interested in the scarf, please leave me a comment. Again, you can tell me anything. You can tell me what you enjoyed. You can ask me a question, tell me what you're working on, anything at all. And right before I record the next episode, I will draw from the random number generator and award the prize on the podcast. And then I will just ask that you contact me and send me your mailing information, and I'll get that out to you. So I believe that is all I have for you today. I hope that you've enjoyed. I hope that you're working on some great stuff and that you have a wonderful weekend and or week. So I will say to you, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.